He's been fighting for your ability to go and post what you want online. He's been fighting against big tech censorship. He's been fighting against all sorts of stuff. Also fighting against Soros DAs in Missouri. It is the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey. Andy, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Where are we on censorship? I just told you, I just got done doing a long-form interview with Alan Dershowitz. We talked about Smith-Mundt. We talked about the government lying to us. We also talked about big tech censorship. The Hunter Biden laptop is a prime example of that. We don't want the ability of these platforms to be, we can shut down Andy Bailey if we want. We shut down Joe Pags if we want. Shut down the FBI that had this laptop for a full year before that election. We shouldn't allow them to do that. Where are we on stopping their ability to shut us down just because they feel like it?
Well, I'm proud to say Missouri's been leading this fight from the beginning. Our landmark case, Missouri v. Biden, fighting the vast government censorship regime where the government had coerced and cajoled big tech social media into silencing voices that the government deemed untruthful. That's not the government's role. It violates the First Amendment. It's up to us in a free, fair, and open marketplace of ideas to debate about what is and isn't true and come to that decision ourselves as we, the people. The founders certainly understood that the free and open marketplace for ideas required that competition of ideas where the truth would reveal itself. And lo and behold, everything the Biden vast censorship regime censored ended up being truthful.
Yeah.
And 100% of the voices they censored were conservatives. So this was core political speech. They were trying to drive conservatives from the public domain. They couldn't win the argument on the merits, so they had to silence us. President Trump, our lawsuit went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court. And we were back down at the trial court for merits discovery, pushing that lawsuit forward when President Trump was elected. And thankfully, on day one in office, he signed an executive order to dismantle the vast censorship regime. That's an enormous first step in ending government censorship. However, the risk of corporate censorship remains. Look at what Elon Musk exposed when he bought Twitter, formerly known as X. Silicon Valley's values are not America's values, are certainly not freedom-loving Americans' values. And so we've got to end corporate censorship as well. Why is it that the big tech social media oligarchs have a monopoly on content moderation? That's a consumer protection issue. It's an antitrust issue. So as states, it's important for us to use our antitrust law and consumer protection law to protect the consumers of big tech social media. And we've done that here in Missouri by promulgating a rule that requires algorithmic choice, where the people, the end user, can choose their own content moderator from a menu of options. It won't be up to big tech social media oligarchs to turn dials in Silicon Valley. The user gets to decide what feeds they want to be exposed to and want to see and hear.
I love that. I think that's a great option. I hope that you can get that done. Here's the question, though, and it's more of a philosophical question. Are they doing it because they're trying to protect us from bad, mean, ugly speech? Or are they doing it because they're afraid that we're going to go and find, as you said, do our own research and find, counterbalance it and decide what we think on our own? You and I agree, and I know this because we've spoken a million times, that more speech is better than less speech. The more speech there is, the more opportunity there is to find out what's true and what's not. But do you think there's any chance that the big tech censorship and the big government censorship was to try to protect us?
No, look, I mean, the American tradition is the remedy for disfavored speech is counter speech. That's why we enacted and adopted the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. But make no mistake about it, for both the big tech oligarchs and the Biden censorship regime, it has never been about truth. It's always been about power. And this incredible, unprecedented consolidation of power in these big tech social media companies poses a direct and existential risk to the freedom of speech. Just because President Trump has gotten the government out of the censorship business does not mean that the big tech social media oligarchs have gotten out of the censorship business. And that's why, again, states banding together and using consumer protection law and antitrust law is a great tool to ensure that we mitigate against this unprecedented consolidation of power that seeks to drive our voices from the public domain.
Andy, can you make it so that, and by you I mean those like you that are pushing Missouri v. Biden, stopping the censorship, stopping big tech's monopoly, are you able to force them to at least have the end user have the ability to contact somebody? Here's what I mean. It's a very personal story, but I think a lot of people watching and listening probably have faced the same thing. I've got 385,000, something like that, over on Facebook, on my Facebook fan page. And I haven't gained one follower. In fact, I lose followers in about 5 years because I dared interview Rudy Giuliani and Mike Lindell. Having said all of that, the other day, now I've never made a dime from Facebook. There's no revenue whatsoever for me, even though I give them all this stuff, all of my goods, my content. I got an email the other day from Facebook, I kid you not, we are limiting your ability to monetize. Again, I don't make any money on Facebook because of how you posted or something that you posted. It's literally still happening today. And when you hit reply, it's a no reply email. When you go to try to find somebody on Facebook, you get an AI person or some sort of a computer generated something. The end user literally doesn't have any rights at all on these platforms. Are we getting close to where at least there should be some avenue, some vessel by which we can contact, maybe not Mark Zuckerberg, but somebody who can actually answer a question?
Well, certainly. And again, I would submit to you that this algorithmic choice rule that we're going to promulgate here in the state of Missouri, which is the first of its kind, certainly in the United States of America, potentially in the world, solves a lot of those problems. Because again, the people who don't want to be exposed to your fantastic interview with Rudy Giuliani can choose feeds from left-leaning organizations, and people like me who want that information and believe that healthy debate is a good thing can sign up to receive a feed that's authorized to expose us to your content, or that is advertised by you, or is you advertise for them, vice versa. And so again, this is better for big tech as well. This will enhance the consumer experience. And so they're going to have to let go of the politics of it, have to let go of the power, and let the free market work itself out. And that'll be a better result for freedom of speech. It'll be a better result for the conservative movement. It'll be a better result for the end users, and it will break up this unprecedented consolidation of power that's held by just a few in Silicon Valley who don't share our values. Let me say one other thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the censorship that's happening today is more dangerous than at any time in human history. If King George shut down a printing press, the world knew he had done it, and he was stifling the written word. Here, the deplatforming, demonetizing, shadow banning, all of these things happen in the dark of night. So your audience may not know that they've lost exposure to you. And it's not just your right to free speech that's being violated, it's their right to hear from you. And it's not just the written word, it's the spoken word, it's body language, it's images, it's all of the above. And so the dynamic nature of the communications that's going on big tech, and the clandestine manner in which it's being censored is exceedingly dangerous.
Is Section 230, does it still apply? I know that it was written before the internet was really a big thing, but Section 230 literally says if you're a platform, like if you're a platter, whatever is put on the platter is not up to you. It's not your fault. You can't be sued. There's no liability here for you, the platter or the platform holder. But if you act as a publisher and you decide that Bailey can't be seen, or Pags can't be seen, or those who are out there watching, listening to us can't see what we're posting, if you're acting as a publisher, you can be sued. All of these platforms, X maybe is different now because of Elon, but all of these platforms are serving as publishers. They're pretending they're platforms, and they're getting protected by Section 230. Should we make a change to that section?
We absolutely should. So you expose Section 230 of the CDA's shield provision, and the big tech social media corporations absolutely use it as a shield from civil liability, but it's also a sword. It explicitly allows them to censor. Now, I don't think the drafters and ratifiers of Section 230 of the CDA ever intended for it to be used to squelch conservative voices. All it meant was you bear some responsibility for content moderation. But again, that's why my algorithmic choice rule fits so neatly in that legal landscape, because then the end user has the choice of which I'm a Second Amendment guy. Maybe I want the Gun Owners of America content moderation filter on my big tech social media experience. That's certainly one I would be looking forward to having. And so again, you tailor the curated feed to your interests, and that's a better product. It breaks up the monopoly. It is within the confines of Section 230 of the CDA as it exists today. I would also submit to you that courts have misinterpreted Section 230 of the CDA, and that's the fount of so many of our problems. At a minimum, all states should adopt this algorithmic choice rule. We're excited to get big tech into compliance with it here in Missouri. Long term, I think repealing the sword provision from Section 230 of the CDA would be a great step in the right direction.
Could not agree more. Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, it's Andrew Bailey. I know that there are bad guys out there on the web constantly going after our kids, pornography showing up on social media sites. You know, you're leading the nation. You're protecting children from not only big tech, but also from porn conglomerates. Are they working together, first of all? And are you seeing what I just said to be true? They're targeting our children, trying to indoctrinate them that this is somehow normal and get them involved in that?
It's absolutely normalizing pornography. You know, when I was a kid, there was like at the truck stop, there would be a bookshelf with magazines, and they were covered up, and only adults could go back there and purchase them. Now, anyone who has a computer on their phone that they carry in their pockets can access pornographic websites. We've seen studies that say that exposure to pornography at younger ages stymies emotional and physical development, creates mental health problems down the road for kids. And it's an incredible number of kids, a really scary, frightening number of children who've been exposed to pornography at a younger and younger age with the dissemination of technology and information flow. And so this is dangerous as well. It's as much a child protection issue as it is a parental rights issue. That's why we promulgated a first of its kind rule in this nation, again, under our Consumer Protection Authority, to require age verification on these sites. If children are going to access these sites, they have to be of a certain age. They have to prove that. And we do dual verification, both at the website itself and on the device. That's dual protection. We also require the companies to delete data, not be harvesting the data of anyone who's accessing these sites and then monetizing that harvest of the data without consent of the consumer. This is a major consumer protection step forward. Other states have adopted legislation. We're the first state to use consumer protection rulemaking authority to do this, but it's about protecting kids and parental rights.
Well, it only makes common sense. Now, listen, I'm for the wild, wild west on the internet. I think the internet should be as free as possible. But you're right. I remember growing up, and you couldn't even see the covers of these magazines. They were covered with some sort of a brown sort of paper bag cover on it. And if you were less than 18 years old, you couldn't get it. You also couldn't buy cigarettes. You couldn't buy beer. You couldn't. There are certain limitations to protect our children. Why do you think those protections were never put in place on the internet? I'm glad you're doing it, but why did we just let this go for so long?
It's not just that we've let it go. It's that pornography has been normalized. There are websites now where like amateur pornographers upload their own videos and images. And again, this just creates a world in which we tolerate this slouch towards immorality. And adults can do what adults want, but you don't get to expose my kids to it and victimize my children before I get a chance to have a conversation with them and before they reach an age of maturity where they get to make their own decisions.
It is Attorney General Andrew Bailey from the great state of Missouri. I'm familiar with E85. What the heck is E15?
Yeah, this is a additive to fuel that allows for increased efficiency. It expands the market for fossil fuels. It also supports Missouri corn and Missouri soybean farmers here in our state and transportation across our vast interstate system. We demanded Joe Biden allow E15 fuel sales year round. He had under the law 90 days to respond to our request. He ignored as with everything else, he ignored the law, ignored our response. We cobbled together a multi-state coalition of Midwestern states that were fighting for the same thing. It's about protecting our agricultural resources and promoting energy efficiency and increased access. Look, the more fuel that's on the market, the cheaper the fuel is for working families. It's as simple as that. And Biden ignored us. He didn't care. But Trump comes into office, and I'm proud to say that EPA Director Zeldin this April approved year-round E15 sales. Major win for working Missouri families, transportation industry, and Missouri agriculture.
I've always thought that corn should be eaten, but if it burns cleaner and if it's more efficient, I'm for that as well, and the farmers certainly benefit from it. Do you know what is E85 versus E15? Are they pretty much the same thing, and the 15 and the 85 mean a percentage of the actual fuel is made with corn?
Yeah, that's right. It's all on a spectrum, and I don't have the the data in front of me.
I'm just wondering. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's all on a spectrum. And again, it's about unleashing America's energy. That's what President Trump promised to do on day one, and he's delivering on that promise by having his EPA director approve year-round sales. More fuel in the marketplace equals lower prices, better for consumers, better for working families.
President Trump's been in now since January 20th. Do you hear, as an attorney general of a great state, do you hear from Pam Bondi a lot? Do you hear from Kash Patel? Do you hear from Donald Trump? I know that he's a supporter of what you do in Missouri. I mean, how is it different from the Biden administration, where you never saw Biden and you had a bunch of idiots running the joint like Anthony Blinken and Jake Sullivan and Anita Dunn and all these people, Ron Klain? Are you hearing from this administration? I'm guessing you didn't hear much from the Biden administration unless they were suing you. What are you hearing from the new administration?
Oh my gosh, it is fantastic. What a different world we live in. In just a little over 100 days, the Trump machine, the rampaging juggernaut that is the Trump administration under his firm leadership, has delivered so many wins for the American people to put our country first. I mean, who would have thought that we would ever have to beg a president to respect our national sovereignty and our sacred traditions and our constitutional freedoms? And yet that's what President Trump and his administration do every day. We remain in constant contact with the White House. I was just in D.C. last week. got to meet with General Bondi and participate in a roundtable of law enforcement officials. She is committed to fulfilling President Trump's promise to make America safe again. She is doing that by making major overhaul changes at DOJ. Certainly, we see Director Patel doing that at FBI, and I'm just so excited about the future. Look, I mean, you can't turn an aircraft carrier around on a dime. You can't. Rome wasn't built in a day. All those metaphors, but President Trump is he's not wasting any time. That's for sure, and they've accomplished so much. It's truly historic. I mean, it's hard to even begin to catalog how much has happened so rapidly. Yeah. But that also speaks to what a big hole the Biden administration had gotten us into. And so I'm energized every day to try to keep pace with the Trump administration and to keep delivering wins for the people of the state of Missouri.
It's the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Andrew Bailey. One last question. Is all this stuff going to work out in the Supreme Court? All these national injunctions from district courts that shouldn't be legal, all these district courts saying you've got to bring somebody back from El Salvador, all these district courts saying the executive doesn't have the Article 2 right to do this, that, or the other, trying to tell the Secretary of State what he can and can't do with USAID. Is all this going to be worked out in the Supreme Court, do you think?
I think it will. At the end of the day, Article 3 confines the federal judiciary to adjudicating cases and controversies, not setting national policy on issues like foreign relations and national security. And those are exclusively the province of the President of the United States. And the Constitution will prevail. These judges have created their own constitutional crisis. They will not win. At the end of the day, the American people voted for substantial change to put America first. President Trump's delivering on it. And I believe the Supreme Court is not going to want to put themselves in a position to run contrary to the will of the American people and the other two co-equal branches of government.
Did you ever think that we'd be in a position to where so many people on the left are fighting to have gang members stay here, terrorists stay here? Andy, it blows my mind.
Think of the headline. Like, not only is that just deplorable and dangerous for everyday families across the United States of America, dangerous for our communities, but think about that for a minute. The media has bought in. The headlines yesterday were like, Supreme Court allows President Trump to deport. Like, hold on a second. They don't get a say. They're not part of the Immigration Enforcement Agency. The Supreme Court adjudicates cases and controversies amongst parties. That's it. So Roe v. Wade applied to Roe and Wade. One questions why we ever got down this path of allowing the Supreme Court and the judiciary to be the final arbiters of constitutionality. Our founders put a system of checks and balances in place because you know what? The President of the United States takes an oath to defend the Constitution as well. And that oath means just as much as the one the justices take.
Very, very good point. It's Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, ago.mo.gov. Go follow him over on X. He posts all this great stuff that he's working for the people of Missouri, working for the people of the United States. Andy, thanks a million. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you, my friend. Talk soon.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon. We're back after this. Stay right here.